It was just another quiet morning in the small, cozy diner tucked away on a side street, the kind of place where the smell of fresh coffee mixed with the warm scent of homemade pancakes and bacon. The bell above the door jingled softly as a few regulars trickled in, chatting quietly and taking their usual seats. The waitress, a young woman named Emily, moved from table to table with practiced ease, balancing plates, taking orders, and managing smiles for everyone who walked in, even though her uniform was slightly worn and her shoes scuffed from years of standing on hard floors. She carried herself with a dignity and warmth that made every customer feel welcome. Emily had been working at the diner for nearly 3 years, but life outside the restaurant was far from easy. Bills piled up on the kitchen counter at her small apartment, the rent was always due too soon, and she had barely enough money to cover groceries and transportation. She often skipped meals herself to make sure she could pay for necessities, but she never let her struggles show at work. Instead, she greeted each customer with patience and kindness, remembering their favorite orders, asking about their families, and listening with genuine interest. This morning, however, something unusual was about to happen. A sleek black car pulled up outside, catching the attention of some of the regulars. It wasn't every day that someone dressed so sharply and driving such an expensive car visited this humble diner. Emily, used to seeing delivery trucks, older sedans, and the occasional tourist, couldn't help but glance curiously as the man stepped out. His tailored suit and polished shoes made it obvious he was from another world, one far removed from the life Emily knew, yet there was something calm and thoughtful in the way he carried himself, something that made her instinctively polite and professional. The man approached the counter with a small smile, nodding at Emily, and asked for a table. He seemed friendly but reserved, someone who observed more than he spoke. As he sat down, Emily couldn't help but notice how carefully he studied the menu, almost as if every choice was a deliberate decision. It was clear he was not a regular customer, but there was no rush or arrogance in him either. He seemed patient, respectful, and genuinely interested in the diner's humble offerings. Meanwhile, Emily continued her routine, pouring coffee, refilling water glasses, and greeting the regulars by name. Despite the brief moment of curiosity about the new customer, she reminded herself to stay professional, treating everyone with the same care, rich or poor, young or old. She had learned over the years that work was not just about serving food, it was about connecting with people, even in the smallest ways. A kind word, a smile, or remembering a favorite order could make someone's day, and Emily prided herself on her ability to do just that. Unbeknownst to her, the man's visit was not ordinary. This was no simple breakfast outing. He had a plan, one that involved observing, testing, and learning something about human character in its purest form. Yet, at this moment, Emily had no idea that her patience, humility, and everyday kindness would soon become the center of an experiment far bigger than the usual challenges she faced. As she approached his table to take his order, her friendly demeanor never faltered, and her voice carried the warmth of someone who had spent years perfecting the art of making people feel seen and valued. Even as the diner's usual background noises of sizzling bacon, clinking cutlery, and soft conversation filled the room, Emily remained focused on her tasks, balancing multiple orders with a calm efficiency that came only from years of experience. She laughed gently at a joke from a regular customer and offered an encouraging word to another who seemed a little down. The contrast between her humble environment and the polished, composed stranger at the table could not have been more striking. Yet she treated him exactly the same way she treated everyone else. This moment, ordinary in appearance, carried the weight of the story's beginning. For Emily, it was simply another day at work, another chance to serve people with kindness, but for the man in the suit, it was the start of an experiment, one that would reveal much more than he could imagine about generosity, character, and human dignity. As he quietly observed her, he noted every smile, every gesture, every little act of patience and warmth. These small details, so natural and effortless to Emily, were about to become the key to an extraordinary story. And so, the stage was set. A wealthy, curious stranger in a humble diner, and a destitute but kind-hearted waitress, going about her daily routine without any idea of what was about to unfold. It was an ordinary morning that would soon turn into an unforgettable lesson about humanity, compassion, and the surprising ways that people reveal their true character. The story of Emily and the Millionaire was about to begin, not with drama or conflict, but with the quiet, unassuming grace of a young woman who treated every person with respect, regardless of who they were. The diner itself was a small, cozy place, the kind of eatery that had been a neighborhood fixture for decades. Its faded red booths and checkered tablecloths gave it a warm, lived-in feeling, and the smell of freshly baked bread and sizzling bacon seemed to hug every corner. The walls were decorated with photographs of longtime customers, some smiling on birthdays, others posing with their children, creating a sense of history, familiarity, and community. Regulars came in knowing they would be greeted with the same friendly face, the same warm coffee, and the same little moments of human connection that made this place feel like more than just a restaurant. Emily knew every inch of this diner as if it were an extension of herself. She moved through the narrow aisles with practiced ease, carefully balancing trays of food while avoiding chairs and tables, and she never spilled a drop. Her hands were quick and steady, but her eyes always scanned the room, catching a smile, noticing a frown, and making sure that everyone felt seen. Even the busier days, with crowds bustling in for breakfast or lunch, did not break her rhythm. She had learned to manage stress with grace, to remain cheerful even when the kitchen ran out of certain items or when a difficult customer complained. Outside the diner, life continued at its usual pace, but inside, time seemed to slow down a little, allowing people to enjoy the simple pleasures of conversation, warmth, and good food. Sunlight streamed through the large front windows, casting a golden glow on the counter and illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. The faint hum of the refrigerator blended with the low murmur of conversation, punctuated by the clatter of dishes and the hiss of the coffee machine, creating a comforting symphony of ordinary life. For Emily, the diner was more than a workplace. It was a stage where her daily acts of kindness played out in small, meaningful ways. She knew that some of her customers were struggling just like her, that many came seeking not just food, but a brief respite from their worries, and she treated each interaction with care, remembering names, favorite orders, and even small details from previous conversations. To her, this was not just good service, it was empathy in action, a way of connecting with people and reminding them that someone cared. The regulars were a mix of personalities, each bringing their own little stories to the diner. There was Mr. Harris, the retired schoolteacher who came in every morning with his crossword puzzle, nodding politely at Emily and occasionally asking about her day. There was Maria, a young mother who stopped by on the way to work, juggling a toddler in one hand and a coffee in the other, always grateful for Emily's quick smile and helpfulness. And then there was Tom, a quiet man who spent hours at the corner table writing in his notebook, his thoughts seemingly far away, yet always appreciative of Emily's friendly check-ins. It was in this environment, warm and bustling yet intimate, that the millionaire quietly observed from his table, taking in every detail with a calm, measured curiosity. He noticed the way Emily moved with confidence despite the crowd, how she remembered a customer's coffee preference without needing to be reminded, and how she managed to stay cheerful even when the orders piled up faster than the staff could handle. There was a rhythm to her movements, a grace in her attention, and a genuine care that seemed to radiate outward, touching everyone she interacted with. The diner, though humble, had an undeniable charm that even the most sophisticated visitor could not ignore. The mismatched chairs, the slightly chipped plates, and the scuffed floors all contributed to its authenticity, a stark contrast to the polished world outside. Yet in this simple setting, human character revealed itself more clearly than anywhere else. It was here that acts of patience, kindness, and integrity were on full display, and it was here that the millionaire hoped to witness something real, something unspoiled by wealth, status, or expectation. And so, the stage for the unfolding story was set, not in a glamorous location or a high-stakes situation, but in the quiet, familiar corners of a small diner where ordinary people went about their daily lives, oblivious to the extraordinary observation taking place. It was a place where small gestures mattered, where a smile could brighten a morning, and where genuine character could shine. Even under the most unexpected circumstances, the diner, with its comforting smells, its friendly regulars, and its hard-working staff, had become the perfect canvas for a story about morality, empathy, and the surprising ways that people reveal who they truly are. While the diner hummed with the quiet rhythm of breakfast rush, the millionaire sat at his table, sipping his black coffee slowly, his eyes never leaving the waitress who moved from table to table with effortless grace. He had come here with a purpose, though it was not to enjoy pancakes or eggs. It was an experiment of human nature, a test to see how someone like Emily, kind but struggling, would react when faced with an unexpected challenge. In his world of wealth and influence, it was easy to forget what ordinary life felt like, and today, he wanted to observe something raw, something real, something unfiltered. He had thought about this plan for weeks, imagining different scenarios and outcomes, yet, despite all his planning, he knew there was no way to predict how a person would respond when treated unfairly. How would someone react when confronted with injustice, even on a small scale? Would they become angry? Bitter? Or would their true character shine through? The millionaire believed that actions taken in moments of surprise often reveal the deepest truths about a person, and Emily, with her calm demeanor and unwavering patience, seemed like the perfect subject. The plan itself was simple, yet it carried weight. He would leave a $0 tip for his meal, pretending to be an ordinary customer while observing every detail of the waitress's reaction. To anyone else, it might seem cruel or petty, but for him, it was a way to test honesty, humility, and empathy under real-world conditions. He wanted to know whether she would respond with frustration, resentment, or grace. He wanted to see if someone could maintain dignity and kindness even when the situation seemed unfair. As he watched Emily approach his table, he noticed her natural rhythm, how she instinctively smiled at him, her eyes attentive, her gestures polite and welcoming. She asked for his order without hesitation, her voice steady and cheerful, completely unaware that this moment would become a turning point. The millionaire could sense that her life was far from easy, the lines on her face, the slight weariness in her hands, and the careful way she balanced the tray hinted at struggles beyond the diner walls. Yet, there was no complaint in her expression, no sense of defeat, only professionalism, patience, and quiet dignity. He carefully placed his order, asking for the simplest items, nothing extravagant, yet he noticed how she took the request seriously, confirming details, suggesting small improvements, and making sure he felt seen as a valued customer. In these small interactions, he could already tell that she treated everyone with the same attention and care. It wasn't about money, fame, or recognition. It was about treating people as humans, and for him, that was far more significant than any meal or tip could ever be. As Emily walked away to prepare his order, the millionaire reflected on what he hoped to learn. He knew the test might go in any direction, but the uncertainty made it more meaningful. True character is often revealed not in moments of comfort, but in moments of challenge, and he wanted to witness that firsthand. His plan wasn't meant to humiliate or punish her, it was meant to observe, to understand, and to remind himself that wealth and status could never fully measure a person's worth. The diner continued its familiar rhythm, oblivious to the small experiment unfolding. Regulars chatted, eggs sizzled on the grill, and the smell of coffee and toast filled the air. Yet, at this moment, the millionaire's attention was entirely on Emily, and every detail mattered. The way she wiped a table, refilled a glass, or offered a warm smile. It all spoke of the values that money could not buy. As he sat quietly, waiting for the moment that would define the test, he felt a mix of curiosity, anticipation, and a strange sense of respect for the young woman who had no idea she was about to demonstrate something extraordinary. He knew that the reaction she gave after receiving the bill would be telling. It would reveal patience, integrity, and perhaps even unexpected kindness. For him, the experiment was not just about a tip, it was about witnessing humanity in its most genuine form. The millionaire realized that the diner, humble and unassuming as it was, had become the perfect stage for a test of character, and Emily, with her quiet strength and gentle demeanor, was about to show him something far more valuable than any wealth he could possess. And so, the plan was set into motion, a delicate balance of observation, patience, and anticipation. The millionaire had his eyes open, but he had no idea how profoundly a simple act would reveal the heart of the waitress and change both of their lives in ways neither could have predicted. The moment arrived quietly, almost unnoticeably, as Emily brought the check to the millionaire's table. Her movements smooth and practiced, she placed the receipt in front of him with a polite smile, her eyes meeting his briefly, unaware that he had carefully orchestrated this moment. In her hands, the check was just another part of her routine, another job to complete in a long day filled with orders, dishes, and customer interactions. Yet, for him, this was the pinnacle of his experiment, the instant where character would reveal itself. The diner continued its usual rhythm, the soft hum of conversation, the clinking of cutlery, and the hiss of coffee machines filling the background, but for the two at the table, time seemed to slow, every second stretching longer as anticipation built invisibly in the air. The millionaire watched intently, noting the subtle expressions that passed across Emily's face, her eyebrows slightly raised, her hands steady as she waited for a reaction. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the moment of truth. He had left the exact amount for the bill, 0 extra, pretending to be an ordinary customer, as if the tip did not matter at all. Many people, he knew, might react instantly, with anger, frustration, or disappointment, but Emily was not like many people. He wanted to see whether she would hold her composure, whether she would rise above the situation, whether her kindness would remain intact despite the subtle challenge he had placed before her. Emily glanced at the check, her eyes scanning the total quickly, and then back at him. Her face remained calm, her expression thoughtful rather than upset. For a brief moment, a flicker of surprise passed across her features, almost imperceptible, but it quickly vanished, replaced by the steady, professional smile she wore for every customer. She reached for her pen to make a note, not out of irritation, but as part of her normal routine. Her demeanor conveyed patience, humility, and a sense of fairness that came not from training, but from genuine character. As she walked away to process the payment, the millionaire noticed something remarkable. She didn't mutter under her breath, she didn't roll her eyes, and she didn't show a hint of bitterness. Instead, she continued her work with the same energy and attentiveness she showed for every other customer, treating each person with the same warmth and care. In that small, ordinary moment, she demonstrated an extraordinary strength, a dignity that could not be bought or taught, and the millionaire felt a surge of respect. He watched as she moved to the next table, taking orders and refilling drinks, completely unshaken, her focus on serving others rather than reacting to what might have been seen as an insult. Every gesture, every smile, every polite word reinforced the truth he had hoped to see, that true character is revealed not when life is easy, but when it challenges us. It was a lesson in patience, humility, and grace, delivered quietly, without drama, but with a force that could not be ignored. The diner itself seemed to fade into the background as he observed her, the noise and chatter replaced by a heightened awareness of the human story unfolding in front of him. Emily was not aware of the test, and that made her reaction even more authentic, untainted by awareness or expectation. The millionaire realized that this was the essence of real-life human behavior. Moments of decision where a person can either succumb to frustration or rise above it, and she had chosen the latter. Effortlessly. As Emily returned to check on his table, her smile remained steady, her demeanor unchanged, and he felt a profound sense of admiration. He knew the moment would soon conclude with a revelation, one that would highlight her integrity, empathy, and the quiet strength that often goes unnoticed in ordinary life. But for now, the suspense hung in the air, a delicate tension that made the simple act of a $0 tip feel monumental. In that brief, unassuming instant, the millionaire understood that life sometimes offers the most profound lessons through the smallest gestures. Through Emily's reaction, he saw the power of patience, humility, and human dignity, and the truth that even in a world obsessed with wealth and status, character shines brightest when it is least expected. The moment of truth had arrived, and it had already spoken volumes. Emily's reaction to the unexpected test was quiet but powerful, a moment that carried more meaning than words could ever describe. She had handled the initial surprise of seeing the $0 tip with calm professionalism, but now, as she stepped back behind the counter, her true nature began to shine even brighter. Instead of letting frustration or anger take hold, she focused on what mattered most: her work, her customers, and her own sense of integrity. She moved to the next table with the same warmth and care she always offered, her smile steady and genuine. It was clear she had noticed the unusual tip, but instead of fixating on it, she chose to rise above the moment, treating it as just another part of her day. This reaction was not forced or calculated. It came naturally from a life that had taught her resilience, humility, and patience. Her challenges outside the diner, bills, long hours, and financial struggles, had shaped her, but they had never hardened her heart or dulled her kindness. The millionaire watched intently, fascinated by the contrast between expectation and reality. He had wondered if the $0 tip would provoke anger, resentment, or even sarcasm, but Emily's response was the opposite of what he feared. She maintained her dignity, responding to every customer with unwavering politeness and attention. Every gesture, from refilling a glass to offering a comforting word, reflected her character, her ability to rise above adversity, and her unwavering belief in treating people well regardless of circumstance. Emily's reaction went beyond professionalism. It was a reflection of her inner strength, a quiet statement about who she was, not just what she did. She didn't demand recognition or sympathy. She didn't argue or complain. She simply continued to do her job with care and attention, demonstrating that true kindness is not conditional on reward. The diner's patrons may not have realized it, but in that moment, they were witnessing an extraordinary example of human character. As she returned to the counter to check on the millionaire's table, she greeted him with the same calm smile, as if nothing unusual had happened. Her eyes showed no hint of resentment, only a polite curiosity, and a focus on providing the best service possible. She could have reacted in many ways, yet she chose grace, patience, and humility, showing that the heart often speaks louder than words or complaints. The millionaire felt a profound sense of admiration, even awe, at her response. He realized that this simple act, a reaction to a $0 tip, was more revealing than any conversation, business deal, or social interaction he had ever experienced. Emily's reaction was a mirror reflecting the values that truly mattered: honesty, integrity, and empathy. It was a lesson in the power of human decency, delivered effortlessly by someone who lived it every day. Her reaction also carried an unspoken message, one that transcended the diner and the moment. That kindness does not depend on external validation, and dignity is not measured by wealth or status. In a world obsessed with appearances, social media, and recognition, Emily's response was a reminder that the strongest character is quiet, steady, and consistent. It comes from living a life of principle, even when no one is watching, and even when faced with small, unexpected tests. As the minutes passed, the millionaire could see that the story was already unfolding, not through drama or conflict, but through the simple, unassuming grace of a young woman who chose to respond with patience and humility. Her reaction was a reflection of everything he had hoped to observe, a living testament to the power of inner strength and kindness. It was rare, remarkable, and unforgettable. And in that moment, the diner itself seemed to take notice. The ordinary space suddenly transformed into a stage where real human values played out in the smallest details. The clatter of dishes, the aroma of coffee, and the hum of conversation all faded slightly as Emily continued her work, unconsciously teaching everyone present a lesson about what it truly means to be honorable, compassionate, and strong. Through her reaction, Emily proved that extraordinary courage is often quiet, that moral strength can appear in the simplest moments, and that character is revealed not through words or wealth, but through consistent, thoughtful action. It was a moment that would linger in the millionaire's memory forever, a lesson in humanity, resilience, and grace that no amount of money could ever buy. Emily continued her work behind the counter, unaware that her calm and graceful reaction had not gone unnoticed. The millionaire had been watching her closely from the moment she returned to the table, and now he knew it was time to reveal the truth. It was not a moment of judgment or punishment. It was a moment of revelation, one that would highlight her integrity, kindness, and inner strength. He waited patiently until she approached his table, carrying a fresh cup of coffee with her usual warm smile. Then, in a voice low but confident, he said, "Excuse me, miss, I think it's time I told you the truth." Emily looked up, her expression polite but curious, unsure what he meant. "The tip," he continued gently, "was a test, a small challenge to see how you would respond when treated unfairly." Her eyes widened slightly, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. She paused, trying to process his words, the diner around her continuing its quiet rhythm. "A test?" she asked softly, her voice steady despite the shock. The millionaire nodded, leaning back slightly in his chair. "Yes, I wanted to see whether someone like you, working hard every day, could maintain grace and integrity when faced with an unexpected situation." For a moment, Emily was speechless, the reality of the situation slowly sinking in. She realized that the $0 tip, the odd look he had given her, and his quiet observation all had a purpose far beyond a simple transaction. And yet, instead of anger or embarrassment, her expression softened, replaced by quiet understanding and a sense of humility. The millionaire continued, explaining that he had come not to criticize or humiliate her, but to observe the true nature of character in real life. he spoke of his own experiences with wealth and influence, admitting that while money could buy comfort, it could never measure the quality of a person's heart. You, he said, looking directly into her eyes, have shown patience, kindness, and dignity in a way that few people do, and I wanted to witness it firsthand. Emily listened quietly, a gentle smile forming on her face. Her hands rested calmly on the counter, and she nodded slowly, absorbing the significance of what he had just shared. She had faced many challenges in her life, yet she had never expected to be acknowledged for the quiet, consistent choices she made every day. I was only doing my job, she said softly, her voice filled with humility. I treat everyone the same way. I guess, that's all I can do. The millionaire's eyes sparkled with admiration. Exactly, he replied, and that's what makes your reaction so remarkable. It's not about recognition or reward, it's about how you choose to act, even when no one is watching. Your integrity speaks louder than words ever could. Emily felt a warmth she had rarely experienced, a recognition that went beyond money or praise. It was an acknowledgement of her character, her humanity, and the quiet courage she displayed every day. He then explained that the experiment was not meant to test her patience for amusement or curiosity alone, but to celebrate the values that truly matter in life: empathy, humility, and resilience. The millionaire shared stories of people he had met who often failed such tests, blinded by greed, pride, or frustration, and how rare it was to encounter someone like her, someone who maintained kindness even in the face of subtle unfairness. Emily, still processing the revelation, felt a mixture of surprise, relief, and gratitude. She realized that her simple, honest approach to life, her daily commitment to treating people with care, had made a lasting impression, not because of wealth or status, but because it came from the heart. She understood that her actions, small as they seemed, had the power to influence others profoundly, even someone as powerful as the millionaire. Finally, he smiled and said, "Your reaction has inspired me more than you know. It's a reminder that true value in life is measured by character, not money, and that even in small places, ordinary actions can reveal extraordinary strength." Emily nodded, feeling a quiet pride that had nothing to do with recognition or reward. It was a moment of connection, understanding, and respect, a rare acknowledgement that went straight to her heart. The diner, with its familiar smells and soft hum of conversation, had now become a stage for something extraordinary. The millionaire had revealed himself, not just as a wealthy man, but as someone who valued human goodness above all else, and Emily, through her calm and dignified reaction, had demonstrated the qualities that define true character. That day, the two of them shared a moment that would remain unforgettable, a lesson in integrity, humility, and the unexpected power of kindness. The moment of revelation had passed, but for Emily, the story was far from over. The millionaire, having witnessed her reaction and understood her true character, decided it was time to turn the test into something meaningful, something that would leave a lasting impact. He motioned her closer, a warm smile on his face, and said, "Emily, what you've shown today deserves more than words. It deserves recognition, and more importantly, it deserves an opportunity." Emily blinked in surprise, her hands instinctively tightening around the edge of the counter. She had never expected anything like this, not from a customer, and certainly not from someone so wealthy. Her life had been a constant struggle, long hours at the diner, bills piling up, dreams deferred, and yet here was a man who had seen her integrity and wanted to reward it, not just with a tip, but with something far more significant. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope, handing it to her with a gentle nod. "This," he said, "is not just a tip. It's a token of appreciation for the honesty, patience, and kindness you have shown. But more than that, I want to offer you a chance to make your life easier and perhaps even achieve some of the dreams you've been working toward." Emily hesitated, overwhelmed by the gesture, her eyes filling slightly with emotion. She had worked so hard for so long with little reward, always keeping her head down, focused on surviving day to day, yet now, she felt a sense of hope she hadn't allowed herself to imagine. It wasn't just about money, it was about acknowledgement, validation, and the realization that her values mattered, that the choices she had made in small, everyday moments had meaning. The millionaire explained that he wanted to offer more than financial support. He wanted to provide guidance, mentorship, and opportunities that could help her grow professionally and personally. "You have a rare gift," he said, "the ability to treat people with respect and kindness, no matter the situation." That gift is worth more than money, and it can open doors you might not even know exist. Emily listened, still in a mixture of disbelief and gratitude. She could hardly find words to respond. Her life had been a series of struggles, and for the first time, she felt someone truly saw her, not for her job, her struggles, or her circumstances, but for who she was. Her heart raced with emotion, but she managed to smile. "Thank you," she said softly. "I've always tried to do what's right. I never thought anyone would notice." The millionaire shook his head, smiling warmly. "It's not about noticing, Emily. It's about the choices you make every day, the kindness you show without expecting anything in return. Today, you've shown me something most people never do. And because of that, I want to help you in any way I can." As he spoke, Emily felt a wave of relief, joy, and gratitude wash over her. Her hard work, humility, and integrity, qualities she had always valued quietly, had finally been recognized in a profound and life-changing way. For her, the reward was more than financial. It was the acknowledgement that living with honesty and compassion mattered, that her choices, even the small ones, could ripple outward and touch lives in ways she hadn't imagined. The envelope she held was substantial, yes, but it symbolized so much more: opportunity, possibility, and a reminder that goodness does not go unnoticed. The millionaire encouraged her to pursue further education, explore new professional opportunities, or even invest in personal projects she had always dreamed about. He promised to support her steps forward, not just as a benefactor, but as a mentor, guiding her toward a brighter future. Emily felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, not from embarrassment, but from a deep, emotional recognition that sometimes life rewards patience, integrity, and kindness, even in the most unexpected ways. She realized that the simple choices she had made every day, greeting customers warmly, remaining calm under stress, treating everyone with respect, had led to this extraordinary moment. The diner, which had witnessed countless ordinary mornings, now held a memory of something extraordinary. A small, unassuming space had become the setting for a life-changing event, and Emily, the humble waitress, had been at the center of it. Her life, once limited by financial struggles and unseen efforts, was now infused with possibility, thanks to a moment of observation, a test of character, and a response rooted in pure, unshakable integrity. As she held the envelope, Emily smiled genuinely, feeling a sense of empowerment and hope she had never experienced before. She knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter, one where her values and efforts could shape not just her life, but the lives of others as well. And the millionaire, satisfied that his experiment had achieved more than he could have imagined, quietly observed, knowing that true character had not only been revealed but celebrated. The diner slowly returned to its usual rhythm, the clinking of dishes, the soft hum of conversation, and the aroma of fresh coffee filling the air once more. But something had changed within its walls, something subtle yet powerful. Emily, the humble waitress, had just experienced a moment that would stay with her forever, a moment that reminded her that integrity, kindness, and patience are never wasted. Even in a world that often seems unfair, the choices she made every day had meaning, and now that truth had been reflected back to her in a way she could never forget. As she wiped down a table and rearranged chairs, Emily thought about the morning, about the millionaire who had come in as a stranger and turned her ordinary day into something extraordinary. She realized that the experience was not just about the reward, the envelope, or the opportunities offered to her. It was about validation. The quiet acknowledgement that being true to oneself and treating others with respect has power far beyond what she could have imagined. The millionaire, having completed his experiment, quietly left the diner shortly after, but the lesson lingered in the air, not only for Emily but for anyone who had witnessed her composure, her calm reaction, her unwavering professionalism, and her natural kindness had spoken louder than any words could, and in doing so, had left a mark that could inspire anyone who heard her story. Emily reflected on what she had learned from the encounter, and it was simple yet profound. Life often tests us in unexpected ways, and it is in those small, seemingly insignificant moments that character is revealed. She understood that true strength is not measured by wealth, by outward success, or by recognition, but by the choices one makes when faced with challenges. When treated unfairly, she had chosen grace. When observed in a test, she had chosen humility, and when given an opportunity, she had embraced it with gratitude and hope. The diner itself seemed to carry the story within its walls, reminder that extraordinary lessons often unfold in ordinary places. The chipped plates, worn floors, and mismatched chairs had witnessed countless mornings like this, but none quite as memorable. This humble setting had become a stage where the essence of humanity, empathy, patience, and integrity, was revealed for all to see. The ordinary had become extraordinary, not through wealth or spectacle, but through the quiet power of human character. Emily's life, which had once felt limited by struggles and unseen efforts, was now infused with possibility. She knew that the reward was not just financial, it was the affirmation that her values mattered, that her patience, kindness, and honesty had real-world significance, and that the choices she made daily could ripple outward, touching lives in ways she might never even know. The Millionaire's experiment, though unusual, had achieved its purpose. It revealed the profound impact of small acts of integrity, and it demonstrated that true human worth is measured not by wealth or status, but by how one treats others. It was a lesson in morality, empathy, and humility, a reminder that even the simplest actions can carry enormous weight when guided by character. As Emily finished her shift and stepped out into the late morning sun, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She carried with her not only the financial gift but the understanding that her daily efforts to be kind, honest, and patient were meaningful, that they mattered in ways far beyond her imagination. Her world, once limited by hardship, now held endless possibilities, and she embraced the future with confidence, hope, and a quiet strength that no challenge could diminish. The story of Emily and the Millionaire became a silent testament to the power of integrity, kindness, and humility, showing that true character shines brightest not in moments of comfort, but in moments of trial. It was a reminder that the world rewards those who act from the heart, even when the circumstances are unfair, and that every small act of grace contributes to a life filled with meaning and impact. And so, the humble diner returned to its rhythm, ordinary to any outsider, but extraordinary to those who understood the lessons it had quietly taught. Emily walked away that day not just with a new opportunity, but with a renewed understanding of what it means to live with honor, kindness, and courage. A simple act, a small test, had revealed a life-changing truth. In the end, character, empathy, and integrity are the greatest rewards of all, and they shine brightest when no one is watching.